for the news, right? Like if you want to know what's happening in Syria, or if you want to know what's happening in Latin America, or you know, something that's just like a pure news. It's where do you go for that?
Like that, you're always fighting off rabies. You're always fighting off something.
I'm always fighting off a cold, or I had a stomach virus earlier this year.
Tell us on the couch.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Wow. Okay, listen, I don't know whether to believe you, but you know what? I don't know whether to believe anything because the news today is going crazy, which brings us to today's Big Deal. All right, so that's today's big deal, man. You know, I went to school for journalism, and I actually started off working at the Miami Herald, you know, so I have like a journalistic background, and then I realized it was too hard work to do actual reporting. I'd rather do features, I'd rather get into entertainment, and I wanted to be a writer, and so, but I understand like what makes objective reporting true, and today's news is I mean, it's either so slanted or so biased or just so wrong. They don't even check facts. Now they just report things on something somebody said. They don't even go to see if it's true.
How dare they?
Like, what do you guys think about the news today? Gina, you'll start.
I feel like, for starters, digital era, you know? The fact that you can get your news either in Twitter or Instagram or all these things, it's really, really hard to navigate what's true from what it isn't. But for anything, you know, when it comes to news, I feel like you need to put attention on who are you following, whether it's like a right-sided mind or a left-sided mind, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to political. Because then I think that's what the message you're going to receive is going to be biased.
Of course.
If the news
But if you recognize it, so what you're saying is that if you can recognize where it's coming from, you can kind of calibrate for the bias. You can be like, okay, this is coming from them, but I know how they feel about things. So I can kind of like split the difference. Yeah. Do you watch a lot of political news?
I do watch Trevor Noah, like The Daily Show.
So you like your political news via entertaining.
Yes, that's what I feel like. I feel everything, education and news, have to go through entertainment. Otherwise, people do not pay attention. You know what I'm saying?
But even with that, I feel like it's slanted because a lot of times, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's funny when they poke fun at the president and stuff like that. I mean, I like to be a little bit neutral when it comes to politics, but I'm sure that a lot of the people who are a little bit more right-wing they must be like going up in flames in their homes with like Jimmy Fallon or Stephen Colbert, because they instead of praising the president, they're always like putting him down.
Well, look, as someone who does follow the political news, and what I try to do is I try to triangulate. So I listen to all sides, and I'm a registered independent. I lean left, but I listen to all sides and then triangulate for the truth in the middle, because I know that people have their narratives. When it comes to just like late night shows and fun shows, I mean, comedians are typically going. I mean, it's hard not to make fun of Trump, and comedians are typically gonna lean left. But that's one of the big controversies going on right now, where people who are conservative, they're like, oh my God, you know, wherever they turn on the TV, they're always getting it. You know, I think it's backfiring on the left. I got to be honest with you.
Because?
Well, because a lot of people now just don't believe anything. You know, when it comes to anything that comes out of what they call the liberal media, they just repel against it. So I think.
Well, let me ask you something, because I mean, maybe I'm unaware of it, but are there any comedians making fun more so of the left right now than the right?
Yeah, when you go to comedy clubs, you'll hear a lot of that. So if you go to Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr, even though both of them, I mean, Dave Chappelle's a liberal and he criticizes Trump, but both of them kind of came at woke culture. Yeah, they make fun of culture, but they kind of made fun of woke culture. So there are comedians that are now making fun of like woke far left stuff.
Okay, wait.
But you gotta go to the comedy clubs.
But that's that's about making fun of a character in particular, or like a session in particular. But what I mean, it's like for the news, right? Like if you want to know what's happening in Syria, or if you want to know what's happening in Latin America, or you know, something that's just like a pure news. It's where do you go for that? Like where do you find truth?
Well, okay, are you asking that? Okay, so for me, I'll just take this because I know that. So what I do is this. Number one, I see what everyone's saying. So MSNBC and Fox, the New York Times and the New York Post, Washington Post and National Review. You don't even know which one is left and right.
I read more like the Hollywood Reporter and Deadline.com.
I know you do. That's not good for your political news, but for your entertainment news, good. And I try to triangulate a little bit, and I noticed that the right-wing publications will leave certain things out. The left-wing publications will leave certain things out to fit their narrative. This is what happened. is news used to be a for loss. It wasn't for profit, it was for loss. Like a news department, they knew they were going to lose money on it, but they were going to tell the truth. This is journalism back in like the 60s and 70s. But then what happened in the late 80s, they realized, no, sensationalism rules. This actually started in Miami with Channel 7 when they
my
said,
goodness. You know, I used to work at Channel 7.
And it was sensational.
If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what they realized is sensationalism rules. What happened in the late 90s when Fox News was born, they realized, let's just pander. Let's just give the people what they want to hear or what they fear, but let's just be sensational. And then what happened is because of the success of Fox News, then you had the more center-left liberal media organizations decide they were going to go hard left and pander there. So now it's just a bunch of, you know what clickbait means? So now it's just a bunch of clickbait. They're not really here to tell you the news. They're here to tell you something they hope that you're going to click on the article.
Yeah, but I don't really rely on all that stuff. I mean, because I studied communications and, back in college as well, I'm very weary about my sources. You know, these clickbait things, I'm like, okay, because I see people sharing stuff on Facebook and it looks like a legit article, like headline. And then I'm like, but what website is this coming from? Is it really YouTube.com or is it YouTubey.com? Because they kind of changed the names of these sites slightly to make them look like they're real, credible news sources.
Well, that's where the whole fake news thing comes.
But like only people that are really, really wanting to know if it's true will do that. For instance, people like myself, like I will probably, I will just follow someone that I truly think that they are morally prepared for saying these things. And then I'll be like, okay, well, I'll get my news from this entertainment
That's actually
person.
what I'm doing too. You know what? That's a good point. So now some of the more trusted news outlets right now are individuals. Like on my Twitter feed, I have my individuals who form the filter. And most of these people are fairly centrist, fairly center left, and so I know that they have like my sensibilities, but even then, what's cool about certain people that I follow is that they'll admit their bias a little bit so that okay, if they're biased for this and you're getting the story from them, then you got to get the other side. But at the end of the day, I just think you need to triangulate between sources and you need to be able to recognize when there's a news story that doesn't have a source other than hearsay, which is a lot of news stories these days. Well, they'll talk about something that was somebody heard, said this, overheard. About, you got to know.
I love me some Us Weekly, honey, okay?